There's a form. There's always a form. In this particular corner of bureaucratic hell, it's called Application Form 734B, and it's currently making Senior Administrative Facilitator Vexnoth Cathrall question every life choice that led him to this moment. The form is 892 pages long. A human filled it out in 3 hours, with what Vexnoth can only describe as enthusiasm. "This can't be real," Vexnoth mutters, his 3 eye stalks drooping in what his species calls the position of infinite regret. He's been working at the Intergalactic Tourism Regulation Bureau for 36 years, processing applications for travel permits to various worlds across 83 sectors. In all that time, he's seen exactly 0 applications for voluntary travel to a Class 12 Deathworld until today. The application sits on his desk like a small explosive device, which, given its contents, it might as well be. Vexnoth picks it up with trembling appendages and reads the header again, hoping he hallucinated it the first 19 times. Requested destination: Sulphura Prime, Sector 9, classification Death 12. "Death 12!" Vexnoth shrieks, causing his colleague in the adjacent cubicle to spill his morning algae smoothie. "They want to go to a Death 12. His colleague, a gelatinous blob named Worthington, who'd chosen his name from an Earth television program he didn't understand, oozes over to investigate. "What's a Death 12 again? I always forget the classification system." "Class 12. Deathworlds are planets where the atmosphere is actively trying to kill you, where the ground is trying to kill you, where the local wildlife has evolved specifically to kill things more efficiently." Vexnoth waves the application frantically. "We don't even have tour operators for Death 12s, because there's no point. Nothing visits them. Nothing survives them." "Ah," says Worthington with the tone of someone who definitely doesn't understand, but is too polite to admit it. "So, deny the application." Vexnoth would love to deny the application. He's got his denial stamp ready. He's had his denial stamp ready since he was promoted to senior facilitator. It's a beautiful stamp, ergonomically designed for his specific appendage configuration, with a satisfying thunk when it hits paper. But there's a problem. The human filled out the form correctly. Every single section, every subsection, every sub-subsection, every footnote, addendum, and clause. The human even filled out section 438, which asks applicants to describe their favorite color in interpretive dance notation. Vexnoth didn't even know interpretive dance notation existed. He had to look it up. The human's answer was technically correct. "I hate this," Vexnoth announces to the universe at large. "I hate this so much." The thing about bureaucracy is that it has rules. Many rules. Rules about rules. Rules about the rules about rules. And one of the most important rules in the Intergalactic Tourism Regulation Bureau is this: if an application is filled out correctly, with all required documentation, signatures, and fees paid in full, you cannot deny it based on the applicant being catastrophically stupid. Vexnoth knows this rule intimately. He helped write this rule. It was designed to prevent discrimination against species with unconventional tourism preferences. It was a good rule. It was a fair rule. It's currently the rule that's going to make him approve a death warrant disguised as a vacation request. "Maybe they don't understand what a death world is," Worthington suggests helpfully. "Maybe it's a translation error. You know how humans are with languages." Vexnoth flips to page 612, where applicants must demonstrate comprehension of destination hazards. The human, who signed his name as Jasper Thornwhistle, has written a detailed essay describing exactly what a Class 12 death world entails. He mentions the sulfuric acid rain, the volcanic activity that makes the entire surface unstable, the atmospheric pressure that would crush most species into a fine paste, the native predators that hunt by sensing the electrical impulses in their prey's nervous systems. And then, in the final paragraph, Jasper Thornwhistle wrote, "Sounds amazing, can't wait," with a smiley face. A smiley face. I need to escalate this, Vexnoth decides, reaching for his communication device. This is above my pay grade. Way above my pay grade. He contacts his supervisor, Director Melthrax the reasonably cautious, who listens to his explanation with increasing alarm. Let me understand this correctly, Melthrax says slowly. A human wants to voluntarily visit Sulfura Prime for recreation. Yes, Director. And the application is perfect, Director. Absolutely perfect. I've checked it 5 times. There's a long silence on the other end. Then, bring it to the emergency committee meeting. We're convening in 20 minutes. The emergency committee meeting room is, ironically, never used for emergencies. It's mostly used for lunch breaks because it has the only working climate control system on their floor. But today, it's packed with senior officials from various departments, all staring at Jasper Thornwhistle's application like it's written in the blood of their ancestors, which, given what Sulfura Prime would do to said blood, isn't entirely inaccurate as a comparison. This is unprecedented, declares Assistant Undersecretary Qualix, a bird-like creature who'd survived 83 years in bureaucracy by never making a decision about anything. We've never had a request like this. We had one request, corrects someone from archives, 68 years ago. A Drachnian explorer wanted to visit a Death 11. What happened? Someone asks. We denied it. He sued us. We settled out of court. He died 3 months later trying to climb an active volcano on his own planet, which was only a Death 3. So we learned nothing from that experience, Vexnoth mutters. Director Melthrax taps the table for attention. The legal department has reviewed the application. If we deny this and the human appeals, we'll lose. The documentation is flawless. But if we approve it and the human dies, which they absolutely will, we could face wrongful death litigation from Earth's legal system. What's Earth's legal system like? Asks Qualix nervously. Terrifying, responds the representative from legal. They have something called lawyers, thousands of them. They breed them specially for conflict, and apparently they enjoy it. The room falls silent as everyone contemplates this horror. What if, suggests someone from public relations, we approve it, but we make them sign a waiver? A really, really comprehensive waiver that says we told them they'd die and they chose to go anyway. How comprehensive? Asked legal. I'm thinking 300 pages, 400. The human filled out an 892-page application in 3 hours, Vexnoth points out. I don't think page count is a deterrent. Ugh, what if we make them take a test, suggests another voice. A safety certification exam. Make it incredibly difficult. They'll fail. We deny the application based on failed safety protocols. Everyone goes home happy. This suggestion is met with thoughtful nods. It's the kind of solution bureaucracies love. It creates more paperwork while technically not being discriminatory. I like it, says Melthrax. Draft an exam. Make it comprehensive. Safety procedures, emergency protocols, atmospheric science, xenobiology, crisis management. At least 60 sections. 80, someone suggests. Make it 95, says Qualix, getting into the spirit of things, and make them pass with at least 85% accuracy. Vexnoth feels a small spark of hope. There's no way the human can pass a 95-section exam about surviving on a planet specifically designed by the universe to kill things. It's impossible. The human will fail. They'll deny the application on technical grounds, and he can go back to processing normal applications for beach worlds and shopping districts. The exam is drafted in 3 days. It's a masterpiece of bureaucratic sadism. Questions about atmospheric pressure calculations, essays on predator avoidance strategies, practical scenarios about equipment failure, mathematical proofs about heat distribution. The final question asks applicants to explain in detail why they shouldn't be allowed to visit a Death 12. They send it to Jasper Thornwhistle with a polite note explaining that this is standard procedure for high-risk destinations. Jasper Thornwhistle sends it back in 18 hours, with a 98% score, the 2% he missed. Question 68 asked about the chemical composition of sulfur-prime's acid rain. Jasper got the sulfuric acid concentration right, but was off by 0.3% on the hydrochloric acid content. He sent a follow-up email apologizing for the error and providing 3 academic papers about acid rain composition that supported his revised answer. 2 of the papers were written by researchers from the Bureau's own science division. "I quit," announces Vexnoth, standing up from his desk. "I'm done. I'm finished. I'm going to go live on a quiet asteroid somewhere and never process another form as long as I live." "Sit down, Vexnoth," orders Melthrax through the communication device. "We're not done yet. Legal says we need to do one more thing." "What? What could we possibly do now?" "Interview. In person. We need to assess the human's mental state. Make sure he understands what he's requesting. If he's deemed psychologically unfit for travel, we can deny the application on medical grounds." Vexnoth sits back down. This might actually work, because anyone who wants to visit Sulfura Prime is clearly insane. A simple psychological evaluation will prove it, and this nightmare will finally end. Jasper Thornwhistle arrives at the Bureau headquarters 3 weeks later. He's exactly what Vexnoth expected, medium height for a human, wearing something called cargo shorts, and a shirt with a picture of a place called Grand Canyon on it. He's got a backpack that looks like it's been through several wars, and a smile that suggests he doesn't understand the concept of danger. "Mr. Thornwhistle," Vexnoth greets him with forced cheerfulness. "Welcome to the Intergalactic Tourism Regulation Bureau. Please have a seat." Jasper sits down, still smiling. "Thanks for meeting with me. I know this is probably unusual." "Unusual." Vexnoth's eye stalks quiver. "Mr. Thornwhistle, in 36 years of working here, I have processed approximately 260,000 tourism applications. Yours is the first request for voluntary travel to a Class 12 Deathworld. So yes, it's slightly unusual." "Really? First one?" Jasper looks genuinely surprised. "Huh? I figured there'd be at least a few adventure tourists in the galaxy." "There are adventure tourists, Mr. Thornwhistle. They visit Class 5 worlds. Class 6 worlds if they're feeling particularly brave. Class 7 worlds if they have a death wish and excellent insurance. Nobody goes to Class 12 worlds because Class 12 worlds are where planets go to die." "But Sulfura Prime isn't dead," Jasper points out. "It's got an ecosystem, volcanic activity, weather patterns. It's thriving. It's thriving because everything there evolved to thrive in conditions that would liquefy most species." Vexnoth realizes he's shouting and forces himself to calm down. "Mr. Thornwhistle, let me be very clear. If you go to Sulfura Prime, you will die. Not might die, not probably die, will die. The atmospheric pressure alone would crush your ribcage in approximately 90 seconds without proper protection." "That's why I'm bringing proper protection," Jasper says, patting his backpack. "Environmental suit, rated for extreme conditions, got it custom-made on Rigel 6. The acid rain would dissolve most environmental suits in minutes. Good thing mine's made of Drachnian carbon weave, rated for sustained exposure to acidic environments. Cost me 8 months' salary, but totally worth it." Vexnoth feels something inside him break. Just a small crack at first, but it's spreading. "The heat, Mr. Thornwhistle. The surface temperature averages 412 degrees Celsius. Yeah, I know. The suit's got active cooling systems. Plus, I'm only planning to stay for 72 hours. In and out, quick trip. The native wildlife. Fascinating stuff." Jasper's eyes light up. "I've been reading everything I can find about the thermal predators, the way they sense electrical impulses. Brilliant evolutionary adaptation. I'm hoping to observe them from a safe distance." "There is no safe distance on Sulfura Prime. The entire planet is an unsafe distance." Jasper leans forward, and for the first time, Vexnoth sees something other than cheerful obliviousness in the human's eyes. It's not insanity. It's not stupidity. It's something worse. It's determination. Look, Jasper says quietly, I understand you're concerned. I appreciate it, really. But I've spent 2 years preparing for this trip. I've studied the geology, the atmospheric science, the biology. I've trained in extreme environment survival. I've got emergency backup systems for my backup systems. I know the risks. I know what I'm doing. But why? Vexnoth's voice comes out as a desperate whisper. Why would you want to go there? Jasper's smile returns, softer this time. Because it's there, because it's one of the most extreme environments in the known galaxy, and I want to see it. Because humans have this thing where we look at impossible places and think, yeah, but what if we tried anyway? We climbed our tallest mountains. We explored our deepest oceans. We went to our moon just because we could. And now we're out here, in this amazing galaxy full of impossible worlds, and you're telling me there's a planet so extreme that nobody visits it? He shakes his head. That just makes me want to see it more. Vexnoth stares at him, really stares at him, and realizes something terrifying. Jasper Thornwhistle is completely, utterly, 100% sane. He understands the risks, he's prepared for them, and he's going anyway because humans are apparently wired to seek out things that want to kill them. You're going to die, Vexnoth says flatly. Maybe, Jasper admits. But what a way to go, right? The psychological evaluation report comes back 3 days later. Dr. Heptara, the Bureau's chief psychological assessor, summarizes it in 5 words: sane, rational, and terrifyingly motivated. Vexnoth approves the application. He uses his beautiful stamp for the opposite purpose it was intended. The thunk it makes sounds like a nail being driven into his own coffin. Jasper Thornwhistle's departure date is set for 6 weeks from now. The Bureau assigns him an observer team, because if he's going to die on a Deathworld, they want documentation for the inevitable inquiry. They also assign him 3 emergency evacuation shuttles, because regulations require it, even though everyone knows evacuation from Sulphura Prime is about as likely as successfully tickling a black hole. Vexnoth spends those 6 weeks in a state of quiet dread. He processes other applications mechanically. He attends meetings without hearing what anyone says. At night he dreams about 892-page forms bursting into flames. Then departure day arrives, and Jasper Thornwhistle, along with the observer team, boards a transport ship bound for Sulphura Prime. The first reports come back after 3 days. Jasper has landed. He's established a base camp near a relatively stable volcanic plateau. The observer team is maintaining a safe distance, which in this case means in orbit, where the planet can't kill them. Day 4. Jasper explores a lava field. He takes approximately 6,000 photographs. His environmental suit is functioning perfectly. He reports the experience as quite warm, actually. Day 5. Jasper encounters his first thermal predator. It's called a scorchworm, and it's essentially a 3-meter-long serpent made of concentrated murder and magma. The observer team prepares to document his death. Jasper takes photographs from behind a rock formation. The scorchworm ignores him and moves on. Jasper describes it as majestic. Day 7. Jasper completes his planned 72-hour stay. He's supposed to leave now. His environmental suit has sustained minor acid damage, but is still functional. He's collected rock samples, atmospheric readings, and enough photographs to fill a small archive. He requests a 48-hour extension. "Absolutely not!" Vexnoth screams at his communication device. "You've survived 3 days on a planet that wants you dead. Take your samples and get out while you still can." "Just 2 more days," Jasper's voice crackles through. "There's a cave system I want to explore. Thermal vents create these amazing crystalline formations. I need to document them." "Document them from your grave. No extension." Jasper stays anyway. The observer team reports he's technically still alive and technically violating his permit, but we're not going down there to tell him to leave. Day 9. Jasper emerges from the cave system with more samples and what he describes as the most beautiful mineral formations I've ever seen. His suit now has several patches and is running on backup cooling systems. He returns to his ship without incident. The transport brings him back to civilization after a 2-week journey. The observer team files a report that essentially says, "We have no idea how he survived, and we're questioning everything we know about planetary classifications." Jasper Thornwhistle walks back into Vexnoth's office 3 weeks after returning, looking slightly sunburned, but otherwise unharmed. "I wanted to thank you personally," Jasper says, setting a small container on Vexnoth's desk. "This is a rock from Sulfura Prime, formed in a lava tube about 16,000 years ago. If the dating is right, thought you might like it." Vexnoth stares at the rock. It's actually quite pretty, with swirling patterns of red and black. "You survived," Vexnoth says numbly. "I did. Had an amazing time, too. Listen, I'm already planning my next trip. I was thinking maybe—" "No, you didn't let me finish." "I don't need you to finish. The answer is no. No more Deathworlds, no more applications, no more—" "It's only a Death 11, Jasper says. "Way safer than Sulfura Prime. Place called Frostbite Chasm. Eternal winter. Temperatures around -200 Celsius, gravity 1.8 times Earth standard. Should be a nice change from all that heat." Vexnoth makes a sound that no living being has made before. It's somewhere between a sob, a scream, and a whimper. His supervisor later describes it as concerning. "I'll file the application next week," Jasper says cheerfully. "I've already started filling out the forms. Should only take me a couple of hours." He leaves. Vexnoth sits at his desk, staring at the rock from Sulfura Prime, and realizes something horrifying. This is just the beginning. Because humans, as it turns out, share information. They have something called social media, where they post photographs and write about their experiences. And Jasper Thornwhistle has been very active on social media. The first new application arrives 2 days later. A human named Rita Chow wants to visit a Death 10 world called Razorwind Expanse, where supersonic winds carry crystalline particles that can shred most materials. Then another application. Jackson Wu wants to visit Pressure Deep, a Death 12 world that's essentially one giant ocean with crushing depths. Then 5 more applications in a single day. By the end of the month, Vexnoth has 63 applications from humans requesting permission to visit various Death worlds. Each application is perfectly filled out. Each applicant has done extensive research. Each one answers the question, "Why do you want to visit a place that will kill you?" with variations of "sounds fun" or "for the challenge," or, in one memorable case, "My mother-in-law said I wouldn't dare." The emergency committee convenes again, then again, then again. They're meeting more often than they're sleeping. "We need to understand the scope of this problem," Director Melthrak says, his tentacles drooping with exhaustion. "How many humans are there on Earth?" Someone from demographics checks. "Approximately 8 billion. The room goes silent. "And how many of them are like Thornwhistle?" asks Qualix. "We don't know. But based on the exponential increase in applications and assuming a standard viral spread pattern on their social media platforms, the demographics representative does some calculations. Conservative estimate? Maybe 3% of their population might be interested in extreme tourism. 3% of 8 billion. Melthrax's tentacles begin twitching. That's 240 million potential Deathworld tourists. "We're going to need more forms," someone whispers. Vexnoth laughs. It's not a happy laugh. It's the laugh of someone whose sanity has finally decided to take a vacation without filing the proper departure paperwork. "More forms," he repeats. "More forms. That's your solution. Not closing the program, not declaring a moratorium. More forms." "Well, we can't just deny properly filed applications," argues legal. "That's discrimination. They're trying to visit planets that want to kill them. That's their choice to make. Freedom of travel is a fundamental right under the Intergalactic Accord. Vexnoth stands up. His eye stalks are pointing in directions they've never pointed before. Then I want a transfer. Assign me anywhere else. The Deep Space Monitoring Station, the Waste Disposal Facility, the department that processes expired parking permits for defunct asteroids. Anywhere but here. Request denied, says Melthrax. You approved the first application. This is your responsibility now. You're being promoted to Director of Extreme Environment Tourism. Congratulations. I don't want to be Director of Extreme Environment Tourism. Should have thought of that before stamping Thornwhistle's application. And that's how Vexnoth Cathral becomes the most miserable bureaucrat in the galaxy. His new office is bigger, his new salary is better. His new job is an endless nightmare of humans with death wishes and perfect paperwork. He creates new forms, longer forms, forms about forms. Nothing works. The humans fill them out with the same cheerful efficiency Jasper Thornwhistle demonstrated. He institutes mandatory waiting periods. Humans book their trips months in advance and spend the time training even more. He requires specialized insurance. Humans form insurance cooperatives specifically for Deathworld tourism. He mandates safety equipment certifications. Humans build an entire industry around manufacturing equipment rated for extreme environments. Within 6 months, Deathworld tourism becomes the fastest-growing sector in the intergalactic travel industry. Companies form to facilitate it. Guidebooks get published. There's a television show called Extreme Escapes that follows human tourists visiting progressively more dangerous worlds. It's the highest-rated program in 16 sectors. Vexnoth watches all this happen with the resigned air of someone who's witnessed the heat death of their own soul. Then the complaints start arriving. Not from humans, from the Deathworlds. I don't understand, Vexnoth says to his assistant, a newly hired human named Ripley Okonkwo, who specifically requested this job because she thought it sounded interesting. How do you get complaints from a planet? It's not from the planet, Ripley explains, pointing at her datapad. It's from the native inhabitants. Apparently, Sulphura Prime has a small indigenous population. Very small. About 200 individuals from a species called the Pyrosians. They evolved on Sulphura Prime. It's their homeworld. And they're complaining about the tourists. Apparently, humans keep trying to take selfies with them. And the Pyrosians are extremely camera-shy. Vexnoth reads the complaint. The Pyrosians, who survived millions of years in one of the most hostile environments in the galaxy, are being bothered by human tourists asking for photographs and trying to communicate through translation devices. The complaint ends with a plea. Please make them stop. They're very friendly but very persistent, and we just want to be left alone. This is my life now, Vexnoth says to the universe. I process complaints from beings who live on planets that should be uninhabitable because humans won't stop asking them to pose for pictures. More complaints follow. The crystalline entities on Razorwind Expanse are upset because humans keep collecting the wind-blown crystals as souvenirs, which the entities consider rude. The deep ocean civilization on Pressure Deep is annoyed because human tourists in submersible suits keep accidentally bumping into their buildings. The thermal predators on various volcanic worlds have learned to avoid areas where humans congregate because the camera flashes hurt our eyes. Jasper Thornwhistle visits Vexnoth's office again 6 months after his first trip. He's been to 8 Deathworlds now. He's tanned, healthy, and carrying what looks like a business plan. I want to start a company, Jasper announces, guided tours to extreme environments. I've got the experience, the equipment, and the expertise. I can make Deathworld tourism safe and responsible. There is nothing safe about Deathworld tourism, Vexnoth shouts. And how can you make it responsible when the entire concept is irresponsible? Look, tourism is happening whether we like it or not, Jasper says reasonably, but right now it's disorganized. People are going off on their own without proper training or oversight. If we create structured tour programs with experienced guides and proper protocols, we can minimize the impact on indigenous populations and reduce casualty rates. Casualty rates? Vexnoth's voice goes very quiet. How many humans have died on these trips? Jasper checks his datapad. So far, 14. 14 humans are dead? Out of approximately 8,000 Deathworld tourists over the past 6 months, that's a survival rate of 99.8%. Actually better than the survival rate for recreational mountain climbing on Earth. That's because mountains on Earth aren't trying to kill you. You've never climbed Everest, have you? Vexnoth denies Jasper's business license application. Jasper appeals. The appeal goes to a higher court. The court rules in Jasper's favor, citing freedom of enterprise under the Intergalactic Commercial Accord. Thorn Whistle Extreme Adventures becomes the first registered Deathworld tour company. Within 3 months, there are 63 competing companies. The industry creates jobs for guides, equipment manufacturers, medical personnel, and evacuation specialists. It becomes a significant economic sector. The Bureau of Intergalactic Tourism has to create an entirely new department just to handle Deathworld-related paperwork. Vexnoth gets promoted again. He's now Executive Director of High-Risk Environment Travel Coordination. He has a staff of 200. Most of them are humans who think extreme danger is a selling point rather than a warning. Ripley becomes his Deputy Director. She's terrifyingly competent and has personally visited 12 Deathworlds. She decorates her office with photographs from each trip, including one where she's standing in front of an erupting volcano wearing a Hawaiian shirt. Why? Vexnoth asks her one day. Why do you do this? Ripley considers the question seriously. You know that feeling when you're absolutely certain something is impossible, when every logical calculation says it can't be done. And then you do it anyway, and it works, and you realize that impossible just means nobody's tried hard enough yet? She smiles. That's why. Because we can. The first death that really affects Vexnoth isn't a tourist. It's a Pyrosian elder on Sulphura Prime who dies of old age. His last request is that his body be left in a traditional volcanic vent, as per his species' customs. 23 humans attend the funeral ceremony. They bring flowers which immediately burst into flames in the heat, but the Pyrosians appreciate the gesture. One of the tourists, an elderly human woman named Adelaide Kimura, gives a speech about how the Pyrosians taught her to appreciate the beauty in extreme environments. She's crying. The tears evaporate before they reach her chin. The Pyrosians adopt the humans as honorary fire siblings, which is apparently a significant cultural gesture. A human anthropologist immediately files an application to study Pyrosian funeral customs. Vexnoth approves it without even checking if the forms are complete. He's given up. He's completely given up. The galactic economy begins shifting. Worlds previously considered worthless because of their extreme conditions suddenly have value as tourist destinations. Indigenous populations that lived in isolation for millions of years are now interacting with humans who want to learn about their cultures and take photographs with them. Some species find this annoying. Others find it fascinating. The Pyrosians start a small business selling heat-resistant crafts to tourists. The crystalline entities on Razorwind Expanse begin offering guided windsurfing lessons, which is exactly as dangerous as it sounds, but humans love it. Pressure Deep's deep ocean civilization establishes an embassy specifically to coordinate with human tourists. Their ambassador is deeply confused by humans, but admits they're surprisingly polite for beings made mostly of fragile meat. A year after Jasper Thornwhistle's first trip, the Bureau releases updated statistics. Deathworld tourism has become a multi-billion credit industry. Casualty rates have dropped to 99.9% survival thanks to improved training and equipment. 26 Deathworlds now have tourism infrastructure. Indigenous populations on 8 of those worlds have used tourism revenue to fund schools, medical facilities, and cultural preservation programs. Vexnoth is offered an award for his role in establishing the Deathworld tourism industry. He considers refusing it. Then he remembers that the ceremony is being held on a pleasant Class 2 world with mild weather, breathable air, and no volcanic activity whatsoever. He accepts. The ceremony is well attended. Jasper Thornwhistle is there, having recently returned from a Death 13 world that Vexnoth didn't even know existed. Ripley gives a speech about the importance of pushing boundaries and exploring impossible places. Several Pyrosians attend via heat-resistant video link. When it's Vexnoth's turn to speak, he stands at the podium and looks out at the audience. Hundreds of beings from dozens of species. At least a third of them are humans, wearing casual clothes and carrying data pads with itineraries for their next extreme adventure. I wanted to deny that first application, Vexnoth begins. When Jasper Thornwhistle submitted his request to visit Sulphura Prime, I thought he was insane. I thought he would die. I thought approving his application would be the worst mistake of my career. Jasper grins from the front row. I was wrong about the first part, Vexnoth continues. He wasn't insane. Humans aren't insane. They're just incomprehensibly brave, or incomprehensibly stupid. I genuinely still can't tell which. This gets a laugh. But I was right about one thing. Approving that application was the worst mistake of my career, because it led to this. He gestures at the audience. An entire industry built around visiting places that want to kill you. Thousands of humans willingly traveling to death worlds for fun. An economic revolution based on the principle that nothing is too dangerous to attract human tourists. The audience is silent now, listening. But here's what I didn't expect, Vexnoth says quietly. I didn't expect the Pyrosians to make friends with humans. I didn't expect indigenous populations to benefit from tourism. I didn't expect casualty rates to be lower than traditional mountain climbing. I didn't expect humans to treat death worlds with respect and curiosity instead of conquest and exploitation. I didn't expect... He pauses, choosing his words carefully. I didn't expect to learn that sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do is assume that danger means stop instead of proceed with caution. Ripley starts clapping. Then Jasper. Then the whole audience joins in. Vexnoth accepts his award, a crystal sculpture shaped like a mountain peak, and returns to his seat. Jasper leans over to shake his hand. You know what's funny, Jasper says. I've been to 22 death worlds now, and you know what the most dangerous moment was? Walking into your office for that first interview, I thought you were going to deny my application, and I'd spent 2 years planning that trip. That was terrifying. You're telling me that facing a scorchworm on Sulphura Prime was less scary than a bureaucratic interview? Way less scary. The scorchworm just wanted to hunt. You wanted to protect me from my own choices. That's way more intimidating. Vexnoth doesn't have a response to that. The Bureau creates a new classification system after 18 months. Death worlds are now rated from Class 12 through Class 19 because humans kept complaining that Class 12 wasn't challenging enough. Class 19 worlds are theoretically unsurvivable, with conditions so extreme that even robots can't function there for extended periods. The first human applies for a Class 19 permit within a week of the new system being announced. Vexnoth is in his office when the application arrives. It's from a human named Cordelia Voss Perkins. Her application is 1,012 pages long. She filled it out in 2 hours. He reads through it methodically. Environmental suit specifications, emergency protocols, scientific research goals, medical certifications, backup plans for the backup plans. At the end, in the section asking why she wants to visit a Class 19 world, Cordelia writes, because someone has to be first. Vexnoth looks at his approval stamp. It's worn down now from overuse. The ergonomic grip is comfortable in his appendage. He could deny this. He could create new rules. He could fight it. But he remembers something Jasper told him months ago. The universe is full of impossible things. Humans just haven't gotten the memo. Vexnoth stamps the application. Approved. The office door opens. Ripley enters, carrying a data pad and looking slightly concerned. "Boss, we've got a situation developing." "What kind of situation?" "The good kind, depending on your perspective. We've had 63 applications for Class 19 permits in the last hour." Apparently Cordelia Voss Perkins posted about her approval on social media. Of course she did. "Also, the Drachnian Tourism Board wants to meet with you. They're interested in establishing a similar program for their own dangerous worlds. They've been losing revenue to human-focused Deathworld tourism and want to compete." The Drachnians? The species that evolved on volcanic death traps and considers acid rain a light drizzle? Yep. Apparently, humans visiting their homeworld has inspired them to reconsider what qualifies as dangerous. They're calling it the human effect. Vexnoth puts his head down on his desk. Well, the closest approximation his anatomy allows. "Are you okay?" Ripley asks. "I'm having an existential crisis about whether I facilitate exploration or enable mass suicide." It's definitely the first one. The survival rate for Deathworld tourism is now 99.94%. That's better than the survival rate for conventional space travel. How is that possible? Humans who visit Deathworlds prepare obsessively. They train for months. They check their equipment constantly. They follow safety protocols religiously. Meanwhile, conventional space travelers get complacent and forget to check the air recycling system. Ripley shrugs. Turns out expecting danger makes you safer than assuming safety. There's a wisdom in that statement that makes Vexnoth's head hurt. More applications arrive. The Deathworld tourism industry grows. Worlds previously considered worthless become vacation destinations. Cultural exchange programs form between humans and indigenous Deathworld species. Universities establish academic departments studying extreme environment adaptation. The galaxy changes in small ways and large. Species that never interacted before meet at tourist destinations on volcanic planets. Trade routes expand to previously isolated worlds. The definition of habitable becomes more flexible. And through it all, humans keep filing applications with perfect paperwork and enthusiastic explanations of why they want to visit places trying to kill them. Vexnoth processes every single application. He's gotten faster at it. He knows what to look for now. Proper equipment specifications, realistic timelines, evidence of training and preparation. And that indefinable quality that all successful Deathworld tourists share. Not fearlessness, but a calculated willingness to face fear with preparation and respect. Jasper Thornwhistle visits his office one last time, 3 years after that first application. He's older now, with grey in his hair and a scar on his left arm from a close encounter with a thermal predator on a world whose name Vexnoth can't pronounce. "I'm retiring from extreme tourism," Jasper announces. Vexnoth's eye stalks shoot up in surprise. "You're retiring? You?" "I'm 52 years old. I've visited 48 Deathworlds. My knees hurt, my back hurts, and my doctor says if I don't slow down, I'll have a heart attack in a volcanic fissure somewhere." Jasper grins. "Figure I should quit while I'm ahead." "What will you do instead?" "Teach. I'm starting an academy for extreme environment tourism, training the next generation of Deathworld explorers, making sure they're prepared, careful, and respectful." He slides a data pad across the desk. "This is an application for educational institution certification. I need bureau approval to offer official safety certifications." Vexnoth takes the data pad. The application is, predictably, perfect. "You realize you're creating more work for me," Vexnoth says. "You love the work. Don't pretend you don't." "I absolutely do not love processing applications from beings with death wishes." "You know what I think?" Jasper leans back in his chair. "I think you love it because it's impossible. Every regulation you write, humans find a way to comply with. Every safety requirement you add, we meet it. Every test you create, We pass it. You keep making it harder and we keep succeeding, and somewhere deep down you're impressed by that. Vexnoth wants to argue. He wants to deny it. He wants to point out all the stress, the sleepless nights, the constant worry that the next application will be the one where someone doesn't come back. But Jasper's right. Somewhere in the chaos and the paperwork and the impossible requests, Vexnoth found something he didn't expect. Respect. Humans are reckless and brave and utterly illogical, but they're also thorough and dedicated and genuinely curious about the galaxy's most extreme corners. Your academy application is approved, Vexnoth says, but I'm adding a requirement. Every graduate must complete a 3-month internship with the Bureau. If you're going to create more extreme tourists, they're going to learn how bureaucracy works. Deal, Jasper says, standing up to leave. He pauses at the door. Thank you, by the way, for that first approval, for all of them. You could have made it impossible, but you didn't. You made it difficult, which is exactly what it should be. After Jasper leaves, Vexnoth sits alone in his office, surrounded by thousands of approved applications, tourism statistics, and safety reports. His job is still stressful. His job is still sometimes overwhelming. But somewhere along the way, it became something else, too. It became meaningful. Ripley pokes her head through the door. Boss, we've got another situation. What now? A human just submitted an application to visit a quantum unstable world where physical laws don't consistently apply. It's not even on our classification system because we didn't think any biological entity could survive there. Is the application complete? Every section, including a 20-page addendum about quantum mechanics and consciousness. Vexnoth reaches for his approval stamp. It's automatic now. You're not even going to review it? Ripley asks. Is there any point? If it's a human applying to visit somewhere impossible, the application will be perfect, and they'll probably survive out of sheer spite against physics. Ripley laughs. You've come a long way from wanting to deny Jasper's first application. I've given up. That's different from coming a long way. No, Ripley says seriously. You haven't given up. You've adapted. That's what working with humans requires. Constant adaptation to new definitions of possible. She's right, of course. The entire galaxy has adapted. Tourism industry, cultural exchange, economic development, scientific research, all because one human looked at a map, saw a Deathworld, and asked for directions there. Vexnoth approves the quantum unstable world application. Then he approves 6 more applications that arrived in the last hour, then 12 more. The work is endless, but somehow he doesn't mind as much anymore. At the end of the day, he goes home to his modest dwelling on a quiet Class 3 world with perfect weather and no volcanic activity. He makes himself dinner. He reads reports about the latest Deathworld tourism developments. He prepares for tomorrow's meetings. And somewhere on 48 different Deathworlds across the galaxy, humans are setting up camp, checking their equipment, and preparing to explore places that want them dead. They'll take photographs. They'll collect samples. They'll meet indigenous species and learn about impossible ecosystems. They'll respect the danger while refusing to be stopped by it. Most of them will survive. A few won't, despite all the safety protocols and training and preparation. But they'll have chosen their path knowing the risks, and their fellow humans will honor them by continuing to explore, continuing to push boundaries, continuing to ask for directions to impossible places. Vexnoth thinks about his career, about that first application that changed everything, about the thousands of applications that followed. He thinks about Jasper Thornwhistle and Ripley Okonkwo and Adelaide Kimura and Cordelia Voss Perkins and all the other humans who saw danger as an invitation rather than a warning, and he realizes something that would have horrified him 3 years ago. He's proud of them, not because they're safe, not because they're sensible, but because they're human, with all the reckless courage and careful preparation and absolute determination that implies. His communication device chimes. Another application. This one from a human who wants to visit a world where the atmosphere is composed of metallic hydrogen and lightning strikes carry enough energy to vaporize most known materials. The application is 800 pages long and perfectly completed. Vexnoth smiles, reaches for his stamp, and approves it. Because humans